So I'm here with Jeffrey Yoskowitz of the Gefilteria. Jeffrey, you and Liz Alpern are part of the core team of our development of A Seat at the Table, A Journey into Jewish Food. The class features lectures by scholars and authors, lots of cooking demonstrations with you and Liz, roundtable discussions with various personalities from the academic and food worlds, and downloadable recipes from the wonderful Gefilte manifesto and other recipes. So I know a lot of people are at home now cooking more. Let's start with an important question. Jeffrey, what are you cooking these days?
Oh, Ben, oh my gosh, what a question. I'm in quarantine cooking mode. I am, doing a lot of what everyone else is doing, a lot of beans, a lot of rice, a lot of, some of the dried basics. Um, you know, uh, you know, I'm also working my way through my pantry. I've had things in there, and I've had different granulations of kasha that I have been meaning to go through and play with and experiment with. I've also been making Jewish classics because I've been doing some online cooking workshops. So I've had so many in this past week alone, so much challah, so many bagels, hamantashen, a lot of carbs. I was making latkes. One of my favorite things to do is to work my way through my fridge and make sure nothing goes to waste. And so I found myself making a kasha and butternut squash and parsley hamantashen,
Wow.
and it was quite delicious. So it's kind of exciting for me because this is the moment I get to kind of be that scrappy, bala boost kind of cook, that I always wanted to be, working within the constraints given to me. And so I'm enjoying this moment. There's also a few nights where I've had mac and cheese because we've had it in the pantry and it's time to use it. This is the moment.
Fantastic. So tell us about some of the recipes that are featured in the class that you guys do.
Yes, I'm really excited about the class in general. This has been such an amazing opportunity to work on it, and getting to work on some of the food that gets featured.
Yeah.
We went with a lot of Ashkenazi, I would say classics or fundamentals. How to be how to cook in a Yiddish kitchen, right? And so, of course, there's a recipe for making schmaltz and gribenes, right? Making your rendered poultry fat, making your fried crispy chicken or duck or goose skins, which then led to a recipe for making chopped liver, which incorporates those elements. We've got a recipe for making matzo ball soup, which is one of my favorites because the smells of making the soup that day just kind of reminded me so much of the holidays coming up, Passover, Shabbat. And then we have, of course, listen, you can't have a Ashkenazi Jewish cooking course without talking about latkes, without making challah, without making cholent. My personal favorite aspect of this is that we got to go and hit my favorite area of Jewish culinary history, which is fermentation. And I got to talk a lot about making sour, garlicky pickles, basically garlic pickles, and also we made a beet russell, which is the
Yeah.
fermented beet brine that was often used as a way of souring borscht, or as a way of something to drink to inoculate your gut to feel great. Something that was a product of your root cellars, storing things through the winter. And so for me, getting to talk about that and provide those recipes, it's really a dream come true.
Yeah. I have to say I have learned so much from just watching the two of you cook in this
Mm-hmm.
class, and seeing you go through the recipes and explaining the history, and that's why I'm so excited to share this class with everyone in the YIVO community and beyond. There are a lot of misconceptions about Ashkenazi Jewish food. Can you help us clear the air a little bit?
Yes, this is an important topic. I'm glad you brought it up. So over the years, and one of the reasons why, Liz and I, we have a company called the Gefilteria, and we wrote a cookbook called the Gefilte Manifesto And a lot of our work is informed by our love of Ashkenazi cuisine and the foods we grew up with in the New York area. Our families cooked for the holidays. There was a lot of love for this tradition. But we started this project partly because there was a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of the idea that Ashkenazi Jewish food was only these heavy, wintry foods, was only brown foods. We always joke about the 50 shades of brown. Sure, yes, there's kugel. There's a kugel recipe in this course as well. There's kugel, there are potatoes. Yes, there was winter. One of the things that was almost revelatory for me when I first spent time visiting Eastern Europe in the summer was how much fresh produce there was.
Yeah.
Was how beautiful the markets were how if you were Polish or Lithuanian or Russian, you were foraging for mushrooms and for wild greens and berries. This was part of the tradition and culture that didn't make its way to the Lower East Side necessarily. And there was a lighter side to the cuisine as well. And so for me, it's really important to contextualize, the cuisine and the talking about the land and the climate from which it first arose, and how we can, really think about which foods actually migrated and made it over, and which foods maybe should have but didn't, and what were the circumstances that surrounded those decisions. And so when it even comes to one of my favorite soups, which is mushroom barley soup. I never enjoyed mushroom barley soup growing up, eating it at the delis. I never enjoyed it when my grandmother made it because she always made it with whatever mushrooms were available in the suburban supermarkets. So, the button mushrooms or maybe the baby portobellos. When I made that soup for the first time in Eastern Europe, and I had people bring me foraged mushrooms, these beautiful boleto mushrooms that are just meaty and rich. They were foraged from the forest, and I made this soup. It was a completely different experience. This soup was just so earthy. It was so rich. I finally understood why the soup was so important to my grandparents, why they made a worse version of it. And so Ashkenazi cuisine, I think, is a really rich and beautiful cuisine that actually has many dimensions that often aren't explored at the Jewish deli or the Jewish appetizing shop. And the other misconception, I'd say, is that there's one unified cuisine. Every country, if your family was from Hungary or Russia or Romania or Poland, like my family, then you had specific flavor preferences or flavor profiles, certain spices that went with your cooking. Paprika with Hungarians might be the best example, or the gefilte fish line, the Litvak Galicianer line between the sweet gefilte fish versus a more savory, peppery gefilte fish that the Litvaks preferred. That is part of the diversity of Ashkenazi flavors.
Exactly. Yeah. I think what I've gotten from you guys and hearing you speak about this, you talk a lot about the wisdom in the cuisine. And I'm wondering if you can maybe talk about at a time like this where we're home, we're cooking more, we're thinking about how to feed ourselves and how to take care of our families and community. Is there wisdom in this cuisine that can help us through this time of crisis and sort of help us navigate? What can Ashkenazi Jewish cuisine potentially teach us now that's useful?
So much, Ben. This is the moment for Ashkenazi cooking. I think of, there's different elements, right? There's different Ashkenazi communities. There were some that were more affluent and, more urban. There's also shtetl cooking and shtetl cuisine. And my grandmother came from a shtetl that is now in Ukraine called Shumsk. And in her shtetl, nothing went to waste. Everything was used. So, if you're, you have onion skins and you have parsley stems and you have things that otherwise may have gone into the trash or hopefully the compost, those you can make a stock. You can flavor your beans, your dried beans that you're reviving and bringing to life. For me, one of the best examples is pickle brine, basically. Pickles to begin with are a great example because it's really going from a time of abundance, the summer when there are vegetables being harvested. If you live in the Northeast, in New York, like I do, you know that, you know, you're only going to get great cucumbers fresh from local farms, you know, in season around July, August. So if you want to have cucumbers in December that don't come from Mexico or a greenhouse or California, then you need to preserve them. And so pickling is a method of preservation, of keeping your vegetables, you know, that you have now for later. If you can't get to the supermarket, or you should avoid it right now, taking your vegetables and souring them and preserving them at room temperature, and actually not just preserving them, but making them better, making them chock full of probiotics, taking advantage of the natural bacteria that's already a part of them, and fermenting your vegetables. It's actually going to boost your immune system. It's going to strengthen your, well, it's going to populate your microbiome and strengthen your digestive system. So when you're eating some of these starchier foods, or a lot of these processed foods, in the case some of you, or if you're eating a lot of beans, it's going to help digest and feel good. But then here's the Ashkenazi addition, right? Yeah. You finish your pickles, you got this leftover brine. You can't let that go to waste. You got to do something with it. So there's recipes for pickle brine soups, breads that are hydrated with pickle brine. You know, you can be more playful, like I like to do, and make a you know, dirty pickle brine martini. Why not? But the point being, you would never let that flavor and those nutrients go to waste. And I think that is the essence of that Ashkenazi cooking. It's that resourcefulness that's at the heart of it. And if ever there were a time to learn resourceful cooking, it's now. This is it. And I'd also just argue that, you know, if, you know, I'm thinking about Passover coming around, and the horseradish roots in the ground that, you know, families would, you know, go and forage for. They'd find the horseradish that was getting sharper throughout the winter. The cold was actually strengthening it. You know, a lot of supermarkets might not have horseradish right now, or you might not be able to get to the supermarket. This would be the time, if you knew how to, you know, track down horseradish that would be extra pungent and strong right now. You would have that going into the Passover season. So I'm just thinking about the wisdom that was lost through generations, and through the assimilation to America among Ashkenazi American Jews.
So now's the time for us to rediscover all of this. I'm so glad we were able to chat about this. We have a number of resources on YIVO's website, so people can visit yivo.org/explore for all of our digital resources, which includes all of our online classes, which are now free. And you can sign up and pre-register for A Seat at the Table, which is launching May 1st, coming up. And Passover is coming up. So people, I hope everyone will go and check out your video with Liz on making matzo ball soup. It's fantastic. And we'll keep cooking. And I hope we'll have a chance to chat in person soon, Jeffrey, in a kitchen again.
Ben, I can't wait. And until then, I'm actually just excited for some of the teaser content for this class that's going to come out. And I can't wait for the class to debut. I think it is going to be a real addition to people's you know, Yiddish learning, to their Ashkenazi cultural heritage, and frankly to this Jewish educational landscape as well. I think this is going to be a fantastic course.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey, and thank you for everything you teach us and will continue to teach us.
Thank you, Ben.
Take care.
Take care. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
You too. Bye.
Bye.